How we doing, Max?
Good, dude. How are you doing?
Doing great. Great to have you on the show. This is episode 5 of the Art of Fighting Mat Talk. We got Max with us. He is a Army specialist, 4-0 kickboxer, overall awesome guy. So we're excited to have him on. How you doing, man?
I'm glad to be here, dude. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. It's always good to just chop it up with like-minded individuals. You're one of those guys where like you can kind of just see that you're disciplined and regimented. And I've always felt like discipline is contagious, so it's always good to be around people like that. So, yeah, man, you cool to just get into it?
Yeah.
All right. So let's just go ahead and start with where you're from. Where'd you grow up?
I'm from here. I'm from the west side of Cincinnati. Grew up in Western Hills and lived here almost all my life. Other than when I was in the Army, I lived in Georgia for a little bit and in Washington State, and then moved back here a couple years ago.
Okay, beautiful.
So, yep.
All right. So, what led you to training? You know, this is a fighting podcast. So, what led you to the mats or the ring or whatever, you know, you train in?
So, my martial arts journey started when I was a kid.
Okay.
Maybe I was like 7 or 8 years old to start taekwondo for a couple years, and I think that was just like my parents wanted to give me like general self-defense lessons, and like you know, that would have been like the really early. It would have been around 2000, so like MMA, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, that wasn't really that heard of, especially around here.
Right.
And then when I was in my kind of early 20s, I started to get into Muay Thai because I was big into lifting and powerlifting.
That's
and
right.
like at one point I was probably around 200 pounds, and like I was hitting all my powerlifting goals, and
And what was a goal for you during that time?
like, you know, squat 400 pounds and just look good and look ripped and all that. But then I think I was realizing it was kind of going in my head a little bit, and I just knew that if I stepped foot in a fighting gym or a boxing gym, like there's probably someone, you know, half my size that could just destroy me. So that kind of like, I knew I already had a little bit of wrestling background. I wrestled 8th, 9th, and 10th grade.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah, so I had 3 years of wrestling before I changed over to being more of like a long distance runner, which I also enjoyed a lot. But so I just Googled what is the best striking martial art.
Oh, okay.
You know, and then I decided on Muay Thai, and so I went to a gym in Cincinnati for around a year, and then just because of a number of things, you know, kind of fell out of it. Money and the gym was moving, and stopped for a little bit, and then I moved into Walnut Hills about 3 years ago and picked back up where I left off.
Where we met.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. Dude, yeah, so you were kind of all over the place. Do you just
definitely.
like get into things and then go gung-ho for a while and then
definitely.
whatever
But
changes?
this has been like the longest stretch.
Okay.
Right, because it's been like 4 years now of Muay Thai. I've been with Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I did a little bodybuilding, did a little powerlifting. Like I wanted to do like Olympic CrossFit type, you know, like that kind of lifting. And then, but I did each of those for like maybe a year, maybe 2 years. But this is something I've stuck with for a while now, and I plan on sticking with it. Right.
What do you think it is about Muay Thai that just kind of made you anchor down?
It's a good question. I mean, because I would never say it's better or anything than any other martial art, because now I've been doing jiu-jitsu the last year or so too, and so like I love that. But I think it's just martial arts in general, like just all the knowledge that's out there, you know, just all the curiosity. Like you can learn so much, and honestly just you know, like trying to perfect something that can never be perfected, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's this mathematical term that I always forget, but it's like you approach a graph, like the curve of like the end of a graph forever, and like that's what I feel like. But you can never actually reach the top.
Right.
That's how I feel about martial arts. Like you can always get closer to the top, but you're never gonna reach the top.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So you teach Muay Thai now.
Uh-huh.
You know, PT and run classes. How has that changed your outlook on Muay Thai?
It has changed it a lot. I didn't think it would, but when I started teaching, I started to realize that it just gives you a different perspective on things. And all of a sudden, I can hear my coaches, you know, former and current coaches, coming out of my mouth. Basically, like I can hear their phrases and their like cues and things that they've told me over and over again, and now I'm giving it to someone else. And also, just it helps reinforce a lot of concepts, right? So like if you can explain it to someone else and make sure they understand, I think that's really like proves that you have good understanding of the concept.
Absolutely. And especially explain it simply in a way that people can get it.
Yeah, that's huge. And just you can have someone else, if you can watch them do it, you can explain how it's supposed to be done. It's kind of like you're relearning it, but without like the pressure.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're training, like a lot of times, you know, especially if it's been a long day or whatever, like you're just dog tired and you're, you know, trying to sharpen your technique, or you can't understand a certain concept. But when you're teaching, it's like you're fresh, your brain is fresh, and it's kind of like rehearsing it in your head, but again without, you know, all the fatigue of when you're normally training, or the pressure to perform like under your coach.
Yeah, or the danger.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally agree, man. I love being able to get a bird's view on like the techniques that I even teach, and then like it unravels things on a way different level.
Yeah.
You know, seeing both sides of it. Even just literally being like looking at it from a different angle is huge.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, man. So last time you fought was when?
May 2021.
May 20. Oh, so not that long ago, dude. I don't know if I've gotten an update on that one. Did you send me the update on that one?
I think I did.
Give us a quick update. How'd it
So
go?
it went well. I mean, I won, so it went as well as it could have. But he was. Let's see. I was
coming to me.
Yeah,
Knockout, right?
Yeah, tall guy.
Yeah,
big tall guy. Yeah, he was about 6'4", and
always a challenge,
I'm 5'10".
It's always a challenge
for the people. So there's big height difference, big reach difference, and the goal was to just, he was heavy on the hands, so take out the legs, and of course he had, you know, long legs and long wide stance. So I wanted to hit the legs hard, take away his footwork, take away his boxing, and just stay on the inside. And I did it for the most part, but it came down to decision.
It did go to decision.
Yeah, he was.
Stop you 1 second. I'm just gonna stop this thing from squeaking.
Yeah, you're good.
There we go.
It came down to decision. I think if I would have just started a little slower and more controlled, I probably could have finished him.
That's your first one that's went to decision, though, isn't it?
My very first one. My first one went to decision.
Okay, gotcha.
It was the same thing. I was just over aggressive, and I clinched a lot, and I threw him around, and he was doing some shit too. Like he spit out his mouthpiece like 3 or 4.
What?
Dude, like,
oh, he's getting some time.
At
some
least
rep time.
at least 3 times. Like it came
little
out.
Little tricks.
Yeah, he's just trying to, when he should have been being counted out. But anyway, it went well. And maybe looking at getting another one here soon, hopefully.
Okay, nice. Well, speaking of getting another one here soon, talk about training partners. Talk about what role they play in preparation. Talk about what you look for in a training partner, that kind of stuff.
Like you said, discipline is contagious. So that's big. Someone who's in there consistently. You know, I most of the time I'm pretty motivated, but sometimes, I mean, everybody has their off days, and it's nice to have someone who's gonna just give you a little nudge, give you a push when
bring good energy.
Yeah, exactly. It's the most important with sparring. You know, what I look for is someone who's obviously skilled. If they're more skilled than me, the better. And control. I think that's probably the most important thing, because nobody wants to spar with someone who is uncontrolled, potentially going to hurt them, especially when you're in training camp for a fight.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, as fighters, we get injured enough on a day-to-day basis as it is, and you don't need someone hurting you when it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, and most likely not even giving you good and accurate looks that you'd see, you know, in an actual fight. You know, because the more uncontrolled you are, probably the more inexperienced you are, and likely you're probably not going to be given very good looks anyway. So yeah, good. Yeah, anything else on that? Consistency, discipline, control, obviously a certain level of skill, just kind of good energy.
Just knowing each other.
Yeah,
you know,
dude, that does help, doesn't it?
You know, there's people at Limitless where I know them, they know me, and like, even if they're kind of like definitely got the best of me around, like they're not gonna hurt me or take my head off or anything like that.
Most definitely. What is one part of your game that you've been working on lately?
I have been working on trying to calm down, which actually before we started, when I was getting in that lotus position, I've been meditating.
There you go.
Which is like,
that's where it comes from.
It's something that I never tried before, but I'm still a huge novice with that. Just been doing it a couple months, but just trying to control, my emotions a little more, and I think if nothing else, it'll help with the breathing. Yeah. Because whenever I'm meditating, I'm just focused on my breath and just bring all my attention to that, and I think that'll help between rounds too. Because like that's Coach Tate's style is like in between rounds, just one or two words of advice, and then just let the guy work on breathing. So
chill out. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's
Greg Jackson. He does something in between rounds. Is before he gives any coaching advice, he give me 3 super deep breaths. And I've always liked that coach. It's like, dude, before we get into anything, chill out, because you're not going to be able to receive information when you're scatterbrained or coming off of a hard round. Like, you just need to chill out, then give you the information, then go.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's cool. That's cool, man. Yeah. What are you gonna do? As far as preparation, as far as techniques, what do you really want to take into this next training camp?
Better conditioning. You can always do better with that. And I do feel like I'm in great shape right now. I've been working on my cardio a lot. But hands, it's always boxing for me. Yeah. I think maybe with the Taekwondo background, although the kicks aren't exactly the same, but I've always felt like I'm a stronger kicker. And I just need to, just boxing skills overall and defense, of course, just keep my hands up.
Okay, beautiful. So let's segue into your profession largely as a specialist in the Army. I'm talking about preparation. Are there any parallels, if there are any, to preparing for a fight and actually going in and being on not just active duty but being in an actual war zone?
Yeah, there's lots. I mean, honestly, it's like any other profession, fighting or soldiering or anything else. It's just a lot of repetition, discipline, consistency, anything that would make you successful in almost any field. But I mean, obviously the main similarity is just the violence. Sure. But sure. But yeah, repetitions with good feedback and good coaching. Like, you can't just it's that perfect practice that makes perfect, and having never quit attitude, right? Like, that's obviously like almost like a cliche. People, military people are tough, they never quit, but I think it's definitely the same for fighters. Like, if you're a fighter, you want to have that never quit attitude, but I always say, like, that's kind of like the minimum, right? Like, you can't, you can have a lot of heart and you can never want to give up, but like, there's a lot more work to be done than just that. Absolutely. But you need that. Okay. You can also be talented and be a great athlete, but if you don't have the heart for it, right? Yeah. So like, that never quit mentality, that's always just, you're always gonna finish. You're never gonna, give up. Okay. Give it your all. So yeah, there's a lot of parallels.
Now, do you ever plan on going back into active duty?
Possibly. So actually, just in December, I re-enlisted with the National Guard. Okay. So I am active military right now, or I mean, not active duty, but in the Guard.
But almost at any moment you could be. Maybe. Potentially.
Maybe. Okay, yeah, I'll be in a training environment for the next year or so. But
okay. You excited about that?
Yeah. Definitely, it's good to be back and be involved with the military. So,
for sure.
Even though it's on a part-time basis, it's good to be back in uniform.
Why?
It just feels like kind of where I belong. I got out, and then I think we talked about this. I had a hearing issue. I had a hard time getting back in, but it's just always something I felt like it was good to be a part of. And again, just like on the mats, camaraderie, being part of a team, like it's really it just feels good to be part of that.
So you would say that there are parallels between the brotherhood of
oh, absolutely, yeah,
military and like the brotherhood or sisterhood on the mats?
Yeah, exactly. It's just nothing bonds people like tough times, right? So like,
so true.
So when people are in here rolling and sweating day in and day out, like you grow a bond, just like just like guys in the military train with each other and going through a lot of rough training.
Yeah. So from someone who, I mean, has no family members that have ever been in the military. I mean, maybe back to like, I mean, way far back, and I've never had any conversations with them. Go ahead and just go over like some of the bigger misconceptions that people who have never seen war or training or anything of that nature. What do we get usually wrong a lot? Maybe should I narrow the question a little bit more?
Yeah, let me think.
Yeah, maybe what do we get wrong about actual like tough times? Yeah, or what is that like in what actually is commonplace as far as like tough times like most people go through, or is it all different types of stuff, or is it kind of
so for us this is another actually parallel to fighting, but you've heard train hard, fight easy.
Yeah,
it's like that. So when I was in Washington State and when I was in training, just day-to-day life on active duty, way harder than anything that ever happened overseas.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean long days, long nights.
What can you give us like a typical
lot of shooting.
Just a lot of shooting.
A lot of time at the gun range, a lot of drills, a lot of practicing like urban just maneuvering and going through buildings and room clearing. But the thing is,
how long a day? Like hours? Like
18, 20.
Are you serious?
Oh, that's very common.
You would train for 18 to 20 hours straight,
5 days a week. Yeah,
that's incredible.
You would just you'd sleep, but yeah, it wouldn't be
with any assistance like caffeine or
you could. Yeah,
you could.
I didn't do
each
much.
his own kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, you could definitely take caffeine. Some guys dip or whatever's gonna help keep them awake, but like it's still rough. I mean, it was just.
Like, can the average person do that? Is it a trained mentality, or do you have to have some like innate ability to even stay awake that long? Like, it's hard for me to think that I could do that, like given much circumstance.
It's just if you wanted to, if you wanted to be there bad enough, because to be in that unit it's all voluntary, right? So you can leave anytime you want. You can go down the road to a different Army unit that's a little easier.
Okay.
But that
so
was
like the cream of the crop.
That was like the Ranger portion.
It's like you want to be here.
Yeah.
You're gonna do what we do.
It's everything's voluntary, but yeah, I mean it wouldn't be uncommon, to have 4 hours or less sleep every night of the week.
That's incredible.
So, and then on top of that, we're in Washington State, so it's cold, it's raining, and you have shitty food. Sometimes there's no food, and like just living off snacks and stuff, and it was tough. But then when you get overseas, it's like nothing's ever going to be that hard. Like all the training missions, like they'd be purposefully way harder, way longer movements, heavier kit, like all the stuff you're carrying, and just way more, just objectives to clear and take care of. Like just every mission would be way more than anything you could encounter overseas. And the point was that
train hard, fight easy. Yeah,
exactly.
Like when I'm running Derek through rounds for his fights, we only got 30 more seconds on this, but we train 5 rounds because we're only going 3.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's kind
same
of
concept. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, we're back with Max. Another question for you: what type of unarmed combat training did you do? You talked about a lot of shooting, but was there unarmed combat stuff that you guys did?
Yeah, I mean, not that much there compared to the shooting, but so everybody gets certified at the most basic level of what they call their combatives program. Okay. And that is mainly jiu-jitsu, honestly.
Is that really?
Yeah. So
Gracie stuff. So like the Gracie
old
combatives.
School, yeah.
Okay, very nice.
So when you go through your boot camp or basic training, you're supposed to be certified level 1, which is like I think it's 40 hours of training. Okay. Which is a decent amount of training. Yeah. Considering all the other training they're trying to cram into your boot camp. And then about a year in, I got to go to their level 1 and 2 combatives, which was the same thing. One was 40 hours and level 2 was 80 hours. Okay. And that was same thing, more jiu-jitsu and like kind of like intro to striking. Okay. And just basic boxing, lots of line drills and like anything you'd expect. Because you got to understand, most people have never boxed before. Right. So you have 80 hours. Let's But it was good. It was like 6 or 8 hours a day for a couple weeks, and
Okay,
then
nice. And you felt like it was more or less pretty effective for as much time as you could do
for
it?
someone who had never done jiu-jitsu or boxing.
Yeah.
I was like, I took that and I tried to, go practice some on my own or with other
There you
guys
go.
who've been through a course. And then for another 2 weeks later, we got to do a different program, which is now like the standard from what I understand.
Okay.
And it's more like what you would think like Krav Maga is, right?
That's what I was wondering.
With guns and you have people in a room and you go in with your rifle, like you're going to clear the room, someone grabs it, you got to fight them off and throw them in the center of the room.
Okay.
So the whole idea
interesting.
is use your tools, right?
Yep.
Because you have a rifle, you may or may not have a pistol, you probably have a knife.
They might have tools as well.
Right, exactly. So you're most comfortable with that rifle. So let's use that first. Someone grabs it. Let's try and you can hit them with the rifle. You just need to make separation, right?
Yeah.
Make space and then use the rifle too, because it's all about eliminating that threat, right?
Yeah.
So and if it's tied up, if your rifle gets tangled up the sling, transition to your knife. If you don't have a knife, then just making space from them and having someone else come in and take care of them.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always
the
wondered
first
about that.
thing, as soon as someone gets tangled, they'd always have us say, "Just give me one." You'd scream that because we never want it to be a fair fight, right? We always
Two
want,
against one.
We always want 2, 3, 4 against one if we can.
Absolutely.
There's no point in. We have the number superiority. Let's use it.
Yeah, this isn't a cage fight.
But that was much more applicable to the type of the hand-to-hand fighting that we saw in the global war on terror. Hand-to-hand incidents were few and far between. It doesn't happen as much as you might think it does.
Well,
but,
I would imagine it's getting less and less too.
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
just throughout history.
Oh yeah.
So-
So it's rare to begin with, but when you do, you want training like that, not necessarily. I mean, the jiu-jitsu itself
Yeah.
was great. It
Right.
gave me some confidence, but we have so much equipment, we're just burdened. It's gonna be hard to triangle choke somebody,
Absolutely.
So.
No, you're totally right. Especially with a gun, if they had a gun or something,
Yeah.
forget it.
So just.
But that's cool because even 40 hours, as lifelong martial art, as me as a lifelong martial artist, you pretty much a lifelong martial artist. We know that it's like a constant pursuit of mastery, and we know, we spent 40 hours times
Yeah.
10,000. I don't know. I would love to have a ticker of how much hours I've spent on a mat.
Yeah.
But the reality is 40 hours is a lot more than someone who doesn't have 40 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even a little bit of training can be super effective. Let's segue back to just talking about you preparing for your first fight. And what was that like in parallel to preparing for your first real combat scenario?
The thing they had most in common was just fear of the unknown, right? Because you have no clue what it's going to be like. Especially for me, because my first fight was against someone who it was also his debut. Mm-hmm. So no footage, no he beat this guy or nothing like that.
That's what people don't get about the amateurs, man.
Yeah.
They're dangerous in that way because there's no real preparation.
Yeah, and you never know who's sandbagging or whatever else.
Yeah,
so.
100%.
Yeah.
The fact that in amateur MMA you could go against an All-American D1 wrestler,
Oh, yeah.
your first fight. I mean, at that point you'd have some footage and stuff on him, but it's possible, man. Someone
but
has
what
to
are you
go
gonna do
those
against
guys.
that?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Don't take the fight. That's what you do.
Yeah, but just fear of the unknown. That was just that uneasy kind of feeling, and luckily I had some good people to spar with. I think I was sparring with you probably to get ready for that.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah, and luckily I had Coach Tate, but I think it came out, and I just, just real nervous. And one thing I remember, and I know it's a little cliche, but hearing them drop that key in the door, it's like it feels like I feel like it's really loud, and then all of a sudden nothing, and you hear them lock that door.
It's
it's
a
like,
quiet moment.
oh shit! I'm in this cage, and they're not letting us out until
There's a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shit got real really fast, but I think kind of all my fights I've tried to be controlled, but then once I get hit in the face the first time, it's it's on, and it's like this guy's trying to take my head off.
Right.
Like he's trying.
Which you can't simulate in sparring if you have good partners. Like you
No.
can't really simulate that in sparring.
No. So and parallel war.
Yeah. What was that?
Is what it's like, man. Like you.
Is there a moment like the pin drop where you're like, oh, this is I'm literally in war?
Yeah, I mean, you have. When I was in that first fight, like your training just takes over, right? Mm-hmm. Like especially maybe once we were through like the initial exchange, and he hit me, and then the reality kind of sets in that this is a real fight. Mm-hmm. Your training just takes over, and there's not a lot to think about, and that's kind of how it's like. With the real deal, like.
Yeah. Makes sense.
All those repetitions that you put in, all those leg kicks that I kicked the bag, Coach Tate had me do a set of 1,000 kicks. Like, I'm doing them without thinking. Yeah. And like before I know it, the fight's over, and it's like I'm looking back and I'm laying leg kicks and I'm tossing them around the clinch, and like I really had no like conscious memory of like there wasn't like a strategy or. Mm-hmm. It was just pure instinct. Definitely the first fight, second fight, and then going forward. There's a little bit more where I had a little bit more control of myself.
Wherewithal in the moment.
Yeah, but like definitely the first fight, just pure instinct, and just going off of those repetitions I put in.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I think that is the thing that jiu-jitsu does offer a little bit. Like your first match is your first match.
Right.
Like you're going to be reduced down to pretty much fight or flight, and you're fighting, and that's the first time you've ever chosen that option and decided to stick with it, right? Like, but jiu-jitsu is kind of, I think, you can. One, you get to spar pretty much every single day. You know what I mean? So you're really kind of used to that a little bit, and you can spar pretty close to 100%.
Right.
But, when you got someone really cracking, like I remember, actually it was on the opposite. It was the first time I really hit someone as hard as I could. That was a unique experience.
Was that MMA fight?
MMA fight, yeah, dude. And I'd taken him down and, kind of got to a knee on belly situation and just cracked this dude. And I remember thinking in my head, like, dude, that hurt. That must have hurt. And it was interesting because, I mean, both sides to it. Like, 100% is very different than what you can simulate. Even in hard sparring, it's just different.
Oh, definitely. Because you're not going to have... I mean, you're not going to have the nervousness and stuff, but also, you're not going to have someone throw a shot 100% of you, hopefully, in sparring ever. But I think I've always said that's a really... a benefit of jiu-jitsu, because in Muay Thai, people will come to the gym for a couple months and they think they'll really they're like, I want to fight, I want to go now.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, no, because they haven't been sparring, right?
Right.
Whereas jiu-jitsu, you can spar from day one and understand that you know nothing.
Yeah, right.
You are not shit.
But you can float around a little bit in kickboxing and feel like you're sweet.
Yeah, but like you can come to Muay Thai class for a couple months and you can hit the bag hard and you can crack the pads a little bit and think that you're ready for a fight, and then you start sparring, you go, oh fuck.
Yeah, dude, absolutely, absolutely. Well, cool, man, dude. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely, thank you.
Tell the people what you got going. What's next? Maybe a fight coming up soon. I mean, I guess we kind of went over that, but
I mean,
else?
we're working on it. It's just gonna depend on my work schedule mainly. So I work in construction and I travel around the country. So if I'm gone for a week or two, it's really gonna screw up my fight camp. So
that makes sense.
That's mainly it. But just train with National Guard and keep teaching Muay Thai and keep growing my business.
Beautiful. Yeah. Quick shots, real quick. So these are just like where I ask you this or that question, and you just say it real quick. Okay. Leg kick or body kick?
Leg kick.
Hands or working with the feet?
Feet.
Guess I ain't get teep kick or switch kick?
Teep.
Favorite Muay Thai fighter?
Man, it's a tough one.
Or favorite fighter?
Favorite Muay Thai fighter? Yeltsin Climb.
Okay. Pressure or range?
Pressure.
Clinches or elbows?
Clinch.
Yep. So like working the knees and stuff and going over the top.
Sweeps.
Oh yeah, sweeps or takedowns. You're a
Yeah,
wrestler,
yeah.
so I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you even working sweeps a lot?
I have been. I've been
Beautiful.
working my clinch a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick your brain later. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Signing off.